And all nations should know America will do what is necessary to ensure our nation's security. We'll be deliberate, yet time is not on our side. I will not wait on events while dangers gather. I will not stand by as peril draws closer and closer. The United States of America will not permit the world's most dangerous regimes to threaten us with the world's most destructive weapons.
Afghanistan. This is a country that has known war for 30 years. That may be how you know Afghanistan. It is another country too. I was born in this amazing country. Everyone who matters seems to have gone through here. Emperors, explorers, conquerors. Once an obscure, forgotten country, a place most people didn't know or care about. But now, Afghanistan is a global flashpoint. It's just too curious. There's something about this country and people that just captures the imagination and interests. I always say, no one comes to Afghanistan once. In this film, I take you to a journey to explore the course of war in the past 30 years. In 1979, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan and occupied the country for 10 years. Against the Russians, the US aided the Islamic group known as the Mujahideen. Eventually, the rebels toppled the communist rule in 1989. From 1990 to 1960, the country was left in a lawless state, creating tension between the rebels as who would be the predecessor. In these years of bloodshed and instability, the Taliban rose, heeding rebels' conflicts. In 1996, the Taliban took control of the country, introducing harsh Islamic law. In 2001, the international terrorist group Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Centers, believing that Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden was hiding in Afghanistan. The US retaliated, and after 10 years, they found him and killed him in his home in Pakistan. The occupation has lasted for 11 years, and America plans to withdraw in 2014. What now for Afghanistan?
The Cold War was a war between the United States and the Soviet Union. The United States tried to encourage democracy, and the Soviet Union tried to encourage communism. This is one of the reasons why the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, to promote communism. The Soviet war in Afghanistan was a disaster, not only for Afghanistan, but also for the Soviet Union.
Hafizullah Amin was president at the time. the leader of the Soviet Union became concerned that he was having discussions with the United States. On December 24, 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. President Amin was killed, and the new leader was installed by the Soviets, Babrak Karmal. It's 1989 and the latest battle in the Cold War between the US and the Soviets plays out here, in Afghanistan. The Soviet army tries to force communism on the Afghan people, but the Afghans, with the American support, fight back. Over the next several years, the Soviet army would battle with the Mujahideen. It was a very difficult battle. Many of the Soviet soldiers were untested in battle, and their gear was not designed for the harsh environment of Afghanistan.
As the war continued with little success, it became a source of embarrassment for the Soviet Union. Their army no longer seemed invincible to the rest of the world. The last Soviet troop departed Afghanistan on February 15, 1989. Following the Soviet invasion in Afghanistan in 1979, the Taliban emerged as a resistance aiming to eject the Soviet troops from Afghanistan.
The Taliban was one of the Mujahideen's faction that formed during the Soviet occupation and the internal fighting in Afghanistan. The Taliban rose as a powerful movement in late 1994, when Pakistan chose the Taliban to guard a convoy trying to open a trade route from Pakistan to Central Asia. With Pakistan providing weapons, military training and financial support, the Taliban gained control over several Afghan cities and successfully captured Kabul in September 1996. The Taliban continued to control most of Afghan territories, first led by Ahmad Shah Massoud, the former defense minister.
تو بخشی جواب بدون بخش اول که ما یک پالیسی داریم که اگر تعداد اطفال از 5 نفر زیادتر باشه به صورت اتومات اطفال بعد از 5 یعنی 5 6 و 7 و 8 و رایگان کور میشن، یعنی تحت کور پدر و مادر و دیگه اطفال میان. و در قسمت بعضی دوستای ما که سوال از پیش ما میکنن که ما تعداد ما زیاد است و ما در سال اول مخصوصا که فیس یک ساله پیش پرداخت قابل پرداخت است، ما برای از دوستای خود طور میگیم که انشاءالله به خاطر از اینکه ما تعداد 1000 نفر به خاطر راه اندازی از پروژه کار داریم، بیایید با ما $100 که به خاطر فاتحه در مسجد گرانویل داده میشه که دوباره تمام مصارف از او به $4100 میرسه. اما در پروژه ما یک عضو ما تنها با $10 که میتوانه، هیچ پریمیوم نداره، اکسس نداره و هیچ نوع پیش پرداخت و هم نداره و هیچ نوع شرایطی هم به خاطر من دوست خود دارم هر سوالی که دارن در مورد از ما میتونن بکنن و ما تمام و هر پیشنهادم که دارن ما منتظرشان هستیم که پیشنهاداتشان رو بشنویم و در صورت درست بودنش قبول بکنیم ان شاء الله.
تشکر جان.
تشکر از شما وافی جان که شما می پروگرام تهیه کردین و این زمینه رو مساعد ساختین. قبل از اینکه من خداحافظی بکنم که شما خود میگم که ما در نظر داریم که انشالله فند در مبارک رمضان آغاز اعلان بکنیم و دوستای ما که فرما را گرفتن ازشان خواهش داریم که هر چیز زودتر پولای خود داخل بانک کنن یا برای ما برسانن تا باشه که ما با ارمان خود برسیم و بر دوستای خود در مبارک
After the 9/11 attacks, President George W. Bush gave the rulers of Afghanistan an ultimatum: hand over the terrorists responsible for 9/11 or share in their fate. The Taliban, who ruled Afghanistan, refused to surrender their ally, terrorist leader Osama bin Laden. American, British and other soldiers fought together with the Afghans opposed to the Taliban. Their goal was remove the Taliban from power, find bin Laden and his lieutenants, and destroy his organization, known as the Al-Qaeda. Taliban forces fled from Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan, and retreated towards the mountains border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. With US support, a new government was installed, with Hamid Karzai as the Afghan president. The Taliban gradually rebuilt its fighting forces and carried out attacks against the new government and American soldiers. Noting the Taliban's growing strength and the difficulty of fighting an enemy hidden in caves and mountains, many observers said that the war was unwinnable. On 1st of December 2009, President Obama announced a new strategy: the rapid deployment of additional 30,000 troops to break the Taliban's momentum and turn the war around. President Karzai's followers have been accused of brazen fraud in his 2009 re-election, further decreasing support for his government among the Afghan people who complain of widespread corruption. The Taliban has proven difficult to uproot. Nevertheless, after the assassination of Osama bin Laden in May 2011, President Obama has announced he would accelerate the withdrawal of the American forces.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
Numerous incidents during the early month of 2012 inflamed Afghans against the American military. In response to the incidents, President Karzai demanded that the US pull its troops out of Afghan villages back to the military bases. Many Americans now want the president to speed up the troop withdrawal, but military and political leaders oppose the change in the schedule, which calls for the most of the 90,000 US troops now in Afghanistan to come home by December 2014. For now, the president has not decided to change US withdrawal plans. In 2001, Britain and the United States invaded Afghanistan, and over 3,600 Afghan civilians were killed. But as the focus shifted to Iraq, the spendings and the Afghan civilian deaths fell, and in 2004, the Minister of Defense claimed that the war was costing just $64 million and the life of only a single British soldier. Today, that's another case. By 2010, the war was costing £4.5 billion every year, and 100 British soldiers were killed. It is 100 times as it is costly and bloody as it had been in 2004. The war is costing us currently £12 million a day. That's the same cost as employing 100,000 nurses,
and 150,000 care workers. The total cost of Afghan civilians is unknown, but it is estimated that it costed the lives of 14,000 civilians. Worldwide, it's the source of 3 million refugees.
For as long as our generation can remember, Afghanistan has been associated with war and chaos. Generations before us have known that, and the generation to follow will know that. In the short-term view of things, some positive progress may be made in terms of suppressing the Taliban's influence in the region and installing some semblance of democratic government. But in the long run, it seems unavoidable that the country will fall back to its former ways, to the despair of the public and the world. Is this victory?